Jabby and Bill, this is Triple M's Rush Hour, and Damo was in to chat 8 games from round 21.
Wrapping up the weekend of footy.
Get Purple in here and discuss footy.
This is Damo's recovery session.
We're starting positively here, Purple, as we say hello to you.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Bill.
Damien.
Jim, who is, I don't mean this to be a question without notice, but the person that you think of first when I say to you, who's the best long, 50 metres plus kick of an AFL football, drop punt style?
Daniel Rich.
I was going to go Severio Rocker.
Oh, sorry, for goal? You're talking about
for goal.
Oh,
For goal.
sorry,
Yeah.
No, I love Sav.
Yeah, and I raise that because I reckon 2 of those 3 goals that Peter Wright kicked in the last quarter yesterday for a match total of 7 was Severio Rocker-like, the way he just made that contact and it just took off.
And it made a unique sound too with Sav.
Beautiful sound.
Just like a thump, and the ball just bloody... Whereas his brother Pebbles used to kick the big barrels, didn't he? But Sav was just drop punt 70 metres.
Sav was just guaranteed to get the distance from 60 without even trying.
No, that was a wonderful performance from Wright.
Wasn't it? 7 goals.
Nuts.
What do you have? 9 kicks.
I didn't even get the kicks,
9
but I just saw the
kicks.
7 goals.
No, he had 9 kicks
Yep.
and kicked 7 goals, which
Wow.
is just unbelievable.
Brilliant.
And
Look-
that is efficient, isn't it? And not many players have done that, Damo.
Not many players have done that. As you hand me a match statistics from the
Don't go with
scoreboard.
it. If he's handing it to you, don't go with it.
I'll humour him, Jim.
Humour.
Round 24, venue Princess Park, date Saturday 3rd 1994.
Just in the highlighted.
Just in the highlights. 8 kicks,
Yeah.
6 marks, 8 disposals total,
And
8 goals.
8 kicks, 8 goals. That's efficient, Jim.
That's not a
Don't-
big,
you
not
didn't
that
say
big
who
a
it
day,
was.
though.
It was Billy Brownlands,
Oh,
Jim,
thank you.
in the 1994 season when they ended up making their 3rd grand final of the 4 they made and lost.
Like when Duck kicked 8, he had 28 kicks. Like you only had 8.
I'd rather have 8 and kick 8.
Oh,
That's efficiency, Jim.
Get more of the ball.
Well, I was probably had 3 or 4 on me at the time.
Did you? Hanging off you reckon?
Paul Bullis.
Paul Bullis.
Paul Bullis.
They were very good, and they've given themselves a look, Essendon. They need other teams to fall over.
They have, haven't they? And it's a good story. I love a redemption story that Peter Wright is. And he couldn't get a game for Gold Coast last year. Did not play 1 game of footy in 2020. Went to Essendon as a bit of an afterthought to a lot of people. Gold Coast is still paying, depending on who you believe most, Jim, a part of his wage, whether it's half, whether it's more than that. But it's a fair chunk of a good valued contract. And good on him because I think he's a potential wild card for what may even lie ahead this year.
What's he done this year?
He's been okay.
Where's he been?
Until yesterday, though, he just hadn't taken the game apart like he did. So, but look, well done because to take down the Western Bulldogs the way they did, and they've had to use a makeshift midfield group for parts of the season, haven't they? With injuries to McGrath and Shield initially, So. Getting time and forcing Jakey Stringer in there. Again, the numbers he had yesterday, Bill, weren't as good as he has had in the last 5 to 6 weeks, but he still had impact. Zach Merritt was back to his absolute best. And we've seen a ruckman of the future, haven't we, in Essendon? And it's been brewing now for most of the season. Big Sam Draper.
You'd like to go out with him, wouldn't you?
Have a look at the setup on him.
Oh, mate. He's just
mad. No, mad.
M-A-double-D.
No doubt.
You're right about that. He just gives that impression you'd like to have a night out. Yeah.
Him and Toby.
Him and Toby, yeah.
It's Toby Greene. I know you'll talk about him.
We might as well talk about him now.
The most watchable. He is the most watchable player in the competition.
It has been for...
Got to be.
Yeah,
There's never
7 or 8 years.
a dull moment.
Yeah.
He goes out, kicks 4, wins the game for him. He gets reported,
He's at the
gets
tribunal
suspended,
tonight.
and he's at the tribunal. There's never a dull moment.
I tell you what they should do, opposition teams, and that's get some vision of what happened Friday night and show it to some of the tall forwards in the competition who, when it goes long down the line, get outmarked repeatedly by May and Lever and all of these.
Literally sometimes.
Just show the vision of a 5'8" bloke battling against 2 in the air and bringing it to ground and go, how is it that this bloke can do that and you just allow whoever it is to jump and catch the footy? I mean, he was extraordinary Friday night.
Yeah, he was. The 4 goals he kicked were obviously crucial.
But he's always been able to do that, and
Always.
and they are crucial. But it's the he's never beaten. It's how
he's not.
competitive he is that I just love it. I reckon he's gold.
great.
He is gold. Hawthorn. Are they doing the right thing?
Well, yeah, they are because I subscribe to the view, and I'm probably in a minority that the wins you get are more important than the gallant losses, regardless of what you want to do with your draft pick. Yeah, I am, Bill, because I go back to what Melbourne did, at least on one occasion, to get the 2 picks, and also maybe on a season either side of that period of time where they were happy to not win games of footy. It killed that footy club's character, I reckon, and that's something that Alistair Clarkson. Now, I know that we're going to say, Jim, with this kid called Horn
No,
in
mate.
Sample, but
It's just that they have, as soon as they've made this decision, they just win.
Well, I think there's a mindset change in Clarko in
Yep.
that regard. I think there was an element of Clarko trying to set up for whatever the future under his watch was going to look
Yep.
like. But the future for him now, when it was finally decided properly 2 weeks ago, ended up having a 5-game finish point
That's
for
it.
him. And he's won two in a row now
Yep.
of those remaining games. And there's every chance he could go in with
Don't
another
tell me
2 more to
4.
come, Bill. And that'll push him right up the ladder to get him well away from that wooden spoon.
Well, they got the
possibility.
Dogs this week.
Who they
That'll
got
be
the Dog?
the
Well-
Dogs. That'll be tough, and then Richmond to finish. So they
Well,
got
they
two
could-
tough ones to finish.
Who said it yesterday on Triple M that Clarko will be wanting to win and Sam Mitchell will not be wanting to win? Surely.
Well,
Who is that?
If you ask Sam Mitchell, it's again, Bill, it's only human nature to probably think you get a higher draft
Yes,
pick than the
yeah.
one that they're going to get if they keep winning. So
Howie.
in
He's
that
a Hawthorn fan.
in that regard. Just want to go back to GWS, Jim, before we jumped on to Alistair Clarkson there. You talk about coaches. You could argue that Leon Cameron has been at the absolute top of his
No,
I've
game.
been saying this for a while.
Brilliant.
You were saying it weeks and weeks ago,
No,
but
he's been superb.
and even theming up the game, I think it's been done a dozen times in AFL, hasn't it? The miracle on ice, but and you can only do it so many times, but he did it, and they followed him in, and you could see the vibrancy that created post match, and you just don't know. They've finished round 21 with the spot of the 8, and it's theirs to lose now. They've got to lose
agreed.
it to allow these other
Who
teams
is
in.
Coach of the Year right now?
I still think it's Simon Goodwin, just from where Melbourne started the year, outside the 8, and not being talked about as a premiership candidate, and in some people's eyes, not even being talked about as a finals candidate. Horses have to be right up there as well. Yeah. But given that Melbourne tonight, when they play West Coast, could finish the round with 2 to go in top spot on the ladder, I think that's where I'd be looking at
The
that one.
coach of the year, at least 3 of the last 4 years, wasn't missed by Wayne Carey.
No.
No, he wasn't. So I'm just trying to
Jeepers.
catch up with what you're saying there, Jim. No, and that was in relation to Dimmer having an issue with commentary
John
made about
O'Brien.
Tom Lynch.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Which
there was-
none of us heard. Or, no, the Dimmer, sorry. I was thinking of another one, Luke Beveridge.
Oh, that one, yeah. We might get to that because they've got a few issues, haven't they, the Dogs? But, yeah, he did fire back, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
And then Duck.
He did not miss him. He's not only did he say that the humility side of things, but he also said, well, Brownie has played 250 pretty decent games. In fact, better games than you did. He's even gone down that path. I'm reading it going, wow. I mean, Wayne is, we always say it, he doesn't have a natural predator. He and Lee Matthews and the Chief all just wander around and no one can pick them off. Yeah. But that is strong.
Yeah, it was strong. It was strong.
His
And we may as well
eyebrows.
touch on Richmond because they had a pretty lacklustre first half against North Melbourne. Got the win they obviously needed. They still need 2 more to be in that conversation for finals. They've got a draw, Bill, that you'd think they might get through, but that may now not be enough given that GWS has started their run and they've got the 2 premiership points buffer on every other team. Brisbane
Well,
Lions
they play the Giants, so that's where that game's going to be enormous this weekend.
Yeah, that will be the Friday night game we expect to see. And you'd think if you're the GWS team, you'd force them to go to the ground that same man in question, Damien Hardwick, pretty ordinarily earlier in the year said that it was a ground that we hate playing at and we just didn't want to play it there. So
Brisbane, good win?
Yeah, Brisbane. Bill lost 3 of the previous 4. Midfield was very good, wasn't it? And it was their leaders again. And Dane Zorko's years got lost on a few people. He's already been an All-Australian. He's already won 4 best and fairest at the Lions. I would be surprised if he's in that right up there again. And he was good again yesterday when they needed to establish they re-established their identity, really, because they'd been meandering. And they fixed up the Fremantle team.
Speaking of that, Took Miller's got to be in the All-Australian.
Oh, no doubt.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, and he was great again against Carlton, and we'll get to Carlton.
So, well,
at
here's
some
the
stage.
thing. So, the Saints this week are the same as Carlton last week, where we said, well, where was that the week before?
Yeah.
I mean, they were horrible last week and very good this week, but what do you make out of that?
Well, you couldn't talk more highly of them with what they dished up against the Sydney Swans, but you go to the previous
before,
week and you think,
it was
well,
insipid.
So what is the real St Kilda? I don't know. There's so many teams that you don't know.
Yep.
You do know with Carlton, and we'll get to them in the negatives. You just know that they will let you down at the time you might be convinced otherwise.
Right.
But they were good. Port Adelaide too. It was a grind against Adelaide, a 55-51 scoreline. Got the win they needed and stay in the top 4.
I'll tell you what, they're good games those are. That was
Showdowns.
on.
Yeah, I
that
didn't
was
see
on
it.
the showdown.
But
It was really
the
good.
rivalry is the most intense in football.
And Adelaide probably should have won that. That was
Yeah,
good.
they had a
They're going
chance.
all right, Adelaide.
we need to get to the negatives next with Damo.
It's the rush hour, Triple M. JB and Bill, this is Triple M's Rush Hour, and Damo was in to chat negatives from round 21.
Where are you starting?
We'll start with the Bulldogs, not from a letting down perspective, but just a problem. It's official now that Josh Bruce has done his ACL, and obviously not just out for the remainder of this year, but most of 2022 as a result of what happened in the last 13 seconds.
13
would you believe?
seconds. Can you
13
believe
seconds.
that?
And
Shocking.
Well, he might have had the best career of his life. Look, he's had good seasons
best
before.
year,
Best year, sorry. And was tracking really well, was important, was so crucial to others around him in that forward line, particularly Norton, and it helped Jamari Ugle-Hagan. Not there now. So got a problem because Josh Shackey has been filling in for Alex Keith. Now, he could be coming back in as early as this week, and if not this week, round 23. But Shackey may have to go forward now in order to just place and play that big man role that they clearly wanted from a structural sense. So a few issues to emerge. Tim English is a better player when Josh Bruce is around. Jamari Ugle-Hagan, you'd think, would have been better had Josh Bruce been able to stay around.
And what we've been saying about the Dogs is a big forward, if he can get on fire, like 2 metre Peter, that's what can destroy the Dogs. And it finally happened.
And that's
didn't
what
it?
happened, yeah. And that's where they're exposed. So, look, I think if you said to them at the start of the year, at the end of round 21, you're going to be in the top 4, you'd take it in a heartbeat. But having had a period of time at the very top of the ladder, and now with this injury to Bruce, it just throws a curveball into their
Having
thinking.
said that, the top 4 sides, they weren't up and about, were
No.
they? When you look at Geelong, Port Adelaide just won, and
Just.
then the Dogs, and
Yep.
who knows what happens with Melbourne. But tonight.
And yeah, well, that's the unknown
Yeah.
about tonight, isn't it? And Brisbane Lions just sort of
Yeah.
pushing back up there, just outside the 4. Carlton, they just disappoint, don't they? And it's now 4 losses and 3 wins only for David Teague since the review was called, and losing to Gold Coast at this late stage of this season with
At
that
your home
review
ground.
at your home ground at a time when there was a chance mathematically of making finals had they closed or to use the American term, Jim, one out on the season. Didn't happen. It was probably never going to happen, and yet again people fell for them, myself included, in thinking they might have finally turned the corner. But it's got to a point in my reckoning, Jim, that the failure now to be able to sell hope around the current structure, and that obviously points right to the coach, because he's now had enough of a clean air in being coach. A full season now that wasn't as affected as COVID was in 2020, and the first half of his career started as an interim capacity. So,
But also,
I think he's
Damo,
done, Jim.
that presser after it.
Yeah,
You know, when it's the same old story, same old sell,
yeah.
you'd just love to see him be actually angry or mad or pissed off or something. Just, you know.
I've learned not to judge people with the way they present publicly, Bill, if it's not in their nature to be anything other than who they present as. But
But if you're a supporter,
yeah, I think you can relate to what you're saying there. But what I do take out of him critically is that whatever he says, it's not actually ever lived out when the game's on. And he keeps talking about a belief in the defensive structures. Well, there is no defensive structure that's going to stand up.
give us something different.
Dockers were disappointing too, weren't they? I say that because they'd had a good patch of form, were a finals possibility, and just got blown away by Brisbane Lions, and looked to be a couple of rungs beneath the 8 when it was all said and
They
done.
were very impressive, Brisbane.
Yeah, they were. Sydney had a hiccup against St Kilda. I'm not going to write them off on the back of that. They'd had a really tough week being away from home for so long. And while GWS was able to, I suppose, grind their way to probably the greatest upset of the season with what they did against Geelong, it just got to the Swans. But I think they've still shown more than enough to be a valid contender when it does come.
Agreed. North Melbourne, I only saw a little bit of it, and admittedly it was in the first half.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
They were
Early.
good.
Yeah.
I have seen a lot worse 18th ranked sides than them.
Spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, then they still make horrible mistakes by foot,
Yep.
and they're trying to pick teams apart by foot. So you need to be very skillful to do that. Look at Hawthorn in that amazing run. So they're going to have to tidy up their ball use, but. Yeah, they're not the worst.
No, they're not, and there's enough to see in the game change. Sorry, the change in game style from David Noble, which was not working for the first 5, 6, 7 weeks. Complete turnaround, and he got the win in round 8, wasn't it? I think it was, and it's been very good since that moment. Round 9.
They just, I think there's enough junior, 20 and unders that are showing a bit too. So not too bad. I didn't see any of Collingwood, but they obviously came back from a horrible first half.
Yeah, they did. They came back from what they'd shown in previous weeks with that win against Carlton, as it was, and no, sorry, who they beat the previous week? I've got him in the brain,
Rabbits
but
will know. He's the Collingwood man.
But they tie
Perhaps
for win
who'd
with,
your team beat
with,
last
with Harvey.
Yep.
And a lot of the good I think out of
West
those
Coast.
West
those
Coast.
weeks
Rams.
was eroded in that loss
the
because they
Cats-
looked a long way away, didn't they?
Cats-
And he was out coached too by Alistair Clarkson.
The Cats.
Well, a lot of
they were
people have
poor.
been, by the
They
way.
have been.
The Cats were poor.
They were really poor, Bill.
Weren't they,
Yeah,
at home?
yeah. Worries
And
now
some
too with
injuries.
Zach Tui going down for an extended period. He may not be ready for even the first week of finals, given he's got a first hamstring. Jeremy Cameron will come back probably around 23, I feel.
What about Rowan?
Rowan will
was
probably
that?
play. He gets banged up. He came back on, didn't he? And we keep saying, Bill, and you've got as good as intel as anyone down there, but Mitch Duncan, at best, will be week 2 of finals.
Saw him
the
this
way-
morning.
Oh, hang on. Yeah,
Yes.
update.
Oh, hello.
Walking in to get a coffee because you only get your takeaway coffees at Sticks across the road from the Creamy, and bounced in
Oh, bounced
beautifully.
in.
Yes, yes. So he was there,
What did he
and he
say?
said he's running and going okay, but didn't give me a lot.
Okay.
And then also I saw Isaac Smith.
Well, he was managed out of that team on the
and
weekend.
guess what he said?
Saw.
No Isaac, no cats. Come on, Isaac, fair dinkum.
Did he really say
They
that?
were all at the coffee shop this morning.
Where are we playing finals, please?
I think we'll play the first
finals?
week in where they're meant to be played. There's access to play in Adelaide if Port Adelaide qualifies. There's even access to play in Perth if West Coast finishes 6th. They're probably not, but yeah, I think the first week will be fine.
With no crowds in Melbourne?
No, I reckon they'll get that first week away without crowds if that's what it needs. But the grand final needs to be sorted out pretty quickly from a crowd perspective. You can't be having
And a broadcast perspective. I
And
mean,
a
the
broadcast
broadcasters
perspective.
need at
Yep.
least
Yep.
at least 3 weeks, I would have thought,
Minimum.
to prepare.
Yeah, and
so
it-
they need to know where it's going to be.
And if you then want to absolutely capitalise on the commercial side of it, which, let's face it, they need to, given the drain on finances in the past 2 years, they will have to have a big runway on time on that. But I'd be staggered if the WA government doesn't
WA.
ease its restrictions on the requirement for 7 days prior to a match for quarantining in that state. So if they can come with a financial package, I just can't see how they won't be listened to by the AFL if they wanted to be creative in that pitch.
Will we see some home and away games even this week at Geelong and Ballarat?
I reckon we will, Bill. Yeah, I reckon we will.
Won't we?
I think we will.
I think what they have 7,000, I reckon, last time, the Cats and Ballarat. So we might see a couple of games this
What was that,
weekend.
about quarter percent, 25%
Yeah,
or 20%?
something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
20%,
they had
yeah.
7,000 at Geelong and they all sat on top of each other.
Yeah.
They had 90% of the stadium empty.
Well, I
and then
reckon
they
that-
had them all sitting on top of each other, not socially distancing.
They did, too, didn't
Pivots
they?
will be open. That's
Oh, well, yes. But now, the bus.
Yeah.
Well, what happens? We've
Well-
got people living in the one at Carlton.
You tried to get me to remove that one from Carlton, Jim, and I'm glad I kept it there because it's going to have to need to be there between now and close of play, and I think more pertinently the 2, 3, 4 days after round 23 when I think the findings of that review will start to take effect from how the board receives
Right.
it. So we're just leaving it
Right.
there, and that one we had at Hawthorn, we've taken that out again.
Yeah.
They've managed to sort it out finally
Right.
after all that time. And
So where's that going?
well, that one we hired from the Perth airport 2 weeks ago. That will be that'll get a friend over at the West Coast Eagles if they lose to Melbourne tonight. Because if that's the case, they will still then need to win one of the remaining 2. They've got to win one of the remaining 3. They've got 3 to go, starting with Melbourne tonight.
Do you know, with the Demons, since 2003, they've beaten West Coast in Perth only twice and
Right.
Freo once.
Okay.
So in 18 years,
Yep.
they've won 3 games in Perth.
Well,
They have a
importantly,
horrific record in the West.
importantly, the year they did make the prelim final in 2018, they did beat them
Yeah.
in the second last round
And then got to the prelim
and got
and were
belted.
given the greatest pasting since. Well, I think actually when I was at North, we played an elimination final against West Coast in Perth and got beaten by
That was 100 points, wasn't it?
6
Yeah.
points.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It was the worst performance since that one. Anyway, they are. There's lots to play for tonight, so we
Yeah,
look
there
forward to that. Good to see you, Purple.
Likewise,
Always.
Jim, Bill.
Perp.
Damo's recovery session.
JB and Bill, this is Triple M's Rush Hour.